Welcome to this video. In this example, I'm going to show you two different ways of connecting SimLab to HyperStudy. This complete problem was performed by the SimLab team, and you can find the step-by-step solution video in the SimLab playlist. But to give you context on this problem, the end goal is to optimize the temperature on the fins using a parameterized model that was done in Inspire. Our design variables here are going to be the fins, so the width, the thickness, and the length. Now, the whole process of this exercise is that we have our parameterized geometry in Inspire, and we have to import that parameterized CAD model to SimLab, and then the thermal solution and automated process for this problem is created in SimLab. Finally, the optimization is done in HyperStudy. And in this case, we're only going to focus on this connection. But again, if you would like to see this whole process, it's available for you within the SimLab playlist. Now, let's go to SimLab. And once you have done all the process here in SimLab, which is going to be to record your script, import the model, create the mesh, set the boundary conditions, create the responses, and finally you get to the part where you solve the heat transfer solution. You're going to stop the recording and save your script, okay? Now let's go to the file where we have our files. When you save your script, you'll notice that an XML file for the parameters has been created, okay? And let's go ahead and open this. Here we're gonna see our design variables, okay? And the type here should be real, and you should have a value so that we don't have any issues in HyperStudy because it's gonna be able to read that value as a real, okay? Now we also have our script here, and here you have basically all the steps that you did on the Wii, okay? So we import the Inspire geometry, select the body associated entities, we mesh it, we basically did everything, okay? Now you need to make sure that when solving our solution, you need to set the file name value to, for instance, .-hsdumfem, so that all of the output files are going to be saved inside the same folder. So this is a relative path, which means that it will save the files in the same folder as your script, okay? Then you need to save this. And one important thing to say here before going to HyperStudy is that we need to create a new folder. And in this folder, we need to copy all necessary files to run our script, okay? So it's gonna be the inspired database and the material template. And if we wanna run this in HyperStudy, we're gonna need the script, also the params file, and the export response for the temperature, okay? So we're going to copy this, and we're going to paste the files in a new location, okay? Now let's go back to SimLab, and the first way of connecting SimLab and HyperStudy, it's gonna be by using a direct connection, okay? So let's go to Solutions, DOE, and select Using a Script. Now we need to point to the location of the params file, our script, and the responses. We click OK. It's gonna say that it will create a new database, so we're gonna say yes. And now this is the direct connection that I was talking about, okay? So we're gonna click here, and it's gonna ask us to set this environmental variable, okay? So if you don't have it, please go ahead and set it up. We're gonna say yes, yes, and we're going to select a new folder, okay? We're going to rename this study, HyperStudy. Now, this is what I was telling you, that it's going to copy all the files. So that's why that step was important, okay? So we say yes. And it automatically opened HyperStudy, okay? Now, the first thing that you need to make sure is that, go to Edit, Register Solver Script, and you need to point to the bat file of the SimLab installation, okay? Now, we can see that we already have the Python script here. We already have our design variables. And now let's make sure that it can write, execute, and extract our response, okay? Okay, so now that it is done, we can see here our output response, which is going to be this temperature. And we can see that it is the same value that we have here in SimLab. Okay. Now you can directly create an optimization, or you can always create a sampling feed. You can set the goal here to maximize this response and then create the optimization. You can create a sampling feed, which is basically going to perform the DOE and the fit in the same approach. In this case, I just wanted to show this connection. Now, the other way to connect SimLab to HyperStudy is a more manual approach. So let's go ahead and close this. And now we're going to start a new study. Let's create a new folder. And we're going to add a model. This is going to be a SimLab model. And remember that we need to register our solver script to SimLab. Now we need to point to the Python script here, okay? So let's go ahead and open this one. Now we're going to import our variables, and we see that they are here, okay? So it's basically the same steps, but you don't have that direct connection, okay? Now let's go ahead and run definition. Okay, so now that it's done, we see that here we don't have our response, okay? But that's no problem. We can go to directory, approaches, setup, run one, M1. And here we're going to take our response file. We're going to drag and drop. And this is going to be a text extraction, okay? We say next. And here we're going to set the temperature to be our keyword. And then the value here, right click, and we're going to create the value for temperature. Okay, we're going to finish, extract, and here we can see that it is the same value. Okay. So those are the two different ways of connecting SimLab to HyperStudy. And again, if you would like to see the complete exercise, you can go ahead and see it in the SimLab playlist.